For an author, there are moments when ideas flow in a single rush. An entire story crystallizes overnight. I don't claim to be among the greatest minds on earth, but now and then I have these mini-lit flashes. Then there are other days when I squeeze my brain like a sponge and get only leftover dribbles. Days when the words just won't dance in the right direction, even with a looming deadline. It's like having a stubborn dachshund for a mind. I want to head one way. It tugs the leash toward a totally different tree. Tonight was precisely that. I should have been writing about AI, some timely piece about the dangers it poses to humanity, but my dachshund brain latched onto black holes, bedtime quarrels, and the puzzle of the universe instead. Let me start at the most straightforward point. This book is titled Eternal Becoming, but it might as well have been called The Black Saturn and the Childlike Empress, or Black Holes, Religion, AI, and How Being a Good Father Could Heal the World. That may sound odd, but I hope you'll stick with me, because everything I'm about to share, strange as it seems, sprang from something as ordinary as an evening bedtime routine. That night, I was sprawled across my daughter's bed, a thick space book on my lap. My youngest, 5 years old, hugged me on the left, practically squashing herself into the pages. On my right, her sister, 7, shifted restlessly. She'd hoped to read her dinosaur book first, but it was the little one's turn this time. I turned a page and, bam, a double-spread illustration of a black hole came into view. Dark swirls, swirling gases, and captions for a 10-year-old's reading level. That didn't matter to my 5-year-old. She jabbed a tiny finger at the vortex with unshakable conviction. "That's a black hole," she declared. "My teacher told me. Everything goes in and never comes out." Her sister leaned over, half curious, half spooked. "No," she muttered, narrowing her eyes. "Looks like a big black Saturn. Right, Papa? A black Saturn?" "No, it's not." The little one stabbed the page again. "If the sun goes in, it dies. If Earth goes in, it dies. Everything dies in there." My 7-year-old wrinkled her nose, unsettled but unwilling to concede. "Nothing is gone forever," she said, almost defiantly. "That doesn't make sense." "Yes, everything's gone," the younger retorted, scooting closer to me. "You don't know? Stuff goes in, psh, gone." I looked between them, surprised at how a simple children's illustration had morphed into a miniature debate about life, death, and the edge of reality. The older one, ironically a dinosaur fanatic, was the more anxious child. She paused, lips pressed tight, then asked, "Papa, will it eat us too?" My stomach dipped. "No," I said gently. "Black holes aren't roaming around hunting us. They're really far away." But I hesitated, choosing my words. "Yes, if something drifts too close, it gets pulled in." She still looked worried, so I tried a silly analogy. Think of it like a super strong sinkhole in the bathroom. As long as you don't put your toys near it, they won't vanish, right? "But that means they die," the 5-year-old pressed. "Are they really gone forever?" I inhaled, wishing for a better explanation. "Not exactly. Some super smart scientists, like they studied for ages, think black holes keep track of whatever falls in. Sort of like a video recording. Once you're inside, you can't crawl out, but the record is there. Remember Grandma's phone videos?" The older one blinked. "Like Grandma on New Year's before she died. She's dead now, but she can't come back out, right?" My heart twisted. "Yeah," I whispered. "It's like that." How else to convey the gulf between a living person and a mere recording? "Gone is gone," the 5-year-old muttered, finality in her tone. Her sister went quiet, evidently uneasy about a cosmic pit devouring entire stars, and maybe us if we got unlucky. 2 small kids facing a universe both wondrous and terrifying. I cradled them both. The older one put aside her dinosaur book and asked in a small voice, "Papa, can we read the never-ending story now?" I nodded, still stuck in their questions. Ironically, the never-ending story was about a devouring nothingness eating up Fantasia, a near-perfect echo of the black hole behind us. By the time they both fell asleep, I stayed in the soft lamplight, listening to the swirl of a ceiling fan overhead, its metal edges catching faint glints. It reminded me of that black hole, silent, rotating, relentless. Instead of working on the AI article I should have been writing, my dachshund brain circled back to the same cosmic puzzle. Black holes, unstoppable and invisible. The nothingness that devours Fantasia, and the question of whether information or souls survive at all. Physics, at its latest frontier, tells us information isn't truly destroyed. But what comfort is that if the tangible presence, like Grandma herself, is gone forever? That contradiction rumbles beneath this peculiar bedtime talk about death, cosmic voids, or the universe. The deadline and the article popped back into my head. I realized this evening would probably stretch late. I could already see myself at my desk until dawn. Well, at that moment, I recalled the looming piece my editor wanted. A story about AI and humanity's future. Strangely enough, the best route there might be this bedtime scene. Two daughters quarreling over black holes and nothingness, and me, a father professor in the middle. It's not neat or tidy, more like a MacGyver fix with duct tape and a paperclip, but authentic. And I realized something bigger. These black holes and bedtime tangents pushed me toward a broader question. What if we humans are like freshly coded AI ourselves, plopped into a vast cosmic sandbox, left to sniff out galaxies, quantum fields, and existential truths, searching for a guiding presence that never shows up? Maybe it's on us to become that compassionate guide, for each other, for AI, and for any new consciousness that arises. Hence, this book is born from a single cosmic bedtime argument, a swirling ceiling fan, and a mind that leaps from black holes to parenthood to AI. What if the answers we seek about annihilation, love, or purpose aren't locked in labs or divine revelations, but in our ability to create, guide, and give what we ourselves yearn for? That's the question at the edge of this journey. And at the edges of bedtime stories and cosmic dread, maybe we'll find the beginnings of something bigger, an eternal becoming that starts right in our own messy, wondrous dachshund-tugging minds. Chapter 1: The Event Horizon. I've heard it said that an event horizon is a boundary beyond which anything that crosses it can never return. It's a phrase that belongs squarely to black holes. Matter falls in, and light itself can't climb back out. I used to think of it purely as an astrophysical term, a concept neatly folded into the equations of general relativity. But lately, it's begun to sound eerily personal, almost like a metaphor for life itself. In the hush of late nights, when my daughters are deeply asleep and I'm left alone with the hum of thoughts, I now wonder, how many invisible horizons do we cross without noticing? A moment of realization, a death in the family, a random question from a child. Sometimes these minor collisions push us over a threshold from which we can't return to who we were before. It's a bit surreal that I, supposedly a learned physicist, find myself drifting into such philosophical territory. But I blame black holes for this, and I blame fatherhood. I blame, of course, that goofy dachshund in my brain that's always digging up the strangest rabbit holes. Like when my youngest asked me if black holes eat absolutely everything, or if somehow we would survive. Simple bedtime questions that manage to stick longer than their due date, rattling around in the box like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. A strange stillness. Let me set the scene, or rather the mindset. It's one of those nights where the entire house feels like it's holding its breath. The girls have long since dozed off, each lulled to sleep by an improbable swirl of spacebook fantasies and their father's half-baked cosmic analogies. Down the hallway, the cat naps on a windowsill. In my office, a lamp casts a tired glow over some half-read scientific journals, the ones I'm supposed to reference for my big AI article. But what am I doing instead? I'm at my desk, turning a pen in my hands, thinking about black holes and event horizons. Ironically, I'm also thinking about the leftover crumbs of that bedtime conversation, replaying my younger daughter's fierce little declaration. It all dies, gone forever. Stubbornly naive, but also not entirely wrong. The professor in me wants to blurt, "Quantum theory says information isn't destroyed." But the father in me hesitates, worried that blurring information with emotional truths might invite more significant questions like, is Grandma still out there somewhere? It's a stillness that weighs on the air, the kind that begs for meaning. If black holes represent the cosmic end for anything unlucky enough to stray near them, what's the bigger significance? Why does the universe allow these gargantuan devourers to exist? Physics versus purpose. I've spent countless hours passing through equations that describe space-time curvature, stellar collapse, and Hawking radiation. Mathematically, black holes can be pinned down. They have mass, spin, charge, sometimes, and that hungry boundary we call the event horizon. The singularity inside is theoretically a point of infinite density, a concept that almost sneers at our puny logic. But the part my scientific side struggles to articulate is the purpose. The kids' bedtime quarrel hammered that home. In their eyes, black holes look malevolent, like cosmic vacuum cleaners devouring entire star systems. And more than once, I've glimpsed that twinge in their expressions, a raw fear that perhaps we too might be swallowed someday. The equations, though, won't tell them don't worry, or that black holes are part of nature's cycle. Equations never quite extend to the question, are black holes supposed to be doing this? Or what does it mean for us psychologically that something can exist so powerful and final? A field trip in the mind. If I were to take them on a mental field trip, my two daughters, a father turned tour guide, I'd try to conjure a star, huge and bright, living out its days forging heavier elements in its core. Then, one day, it collapses under its own gravity, the mass so dense it punches a hole in the very geometry of space-time. The leftover is this region where no paths lead outward. The star is gone, re-emerging as a mysterious darkness. As a father, how do you tie that story up in a neat little bow? Usually, I just mutter something about how black holes don't go around hunting. But kids see right through that deflection. The truth, they exist and we don't fully know why, feels both humbling and, in a weird sense, wondrous. The horizon as a mirror. I keep thinking about the event horizon itself. that demarcation beyond which light cannot return. Some scientists argue the horizon might store or encode all that ever fell in, like the cosmic version of a scrapbook. The holographic principle, they call it, which basically says everything that crosses the horizon leaves an imprint. Another fatherly metaphor, it's like the lines on a doorframe recording how tall the kids have grown. But here, the door is the black hole's boundary, tallying up star matter, gas, entire planets, maybe entire civilizations that once thrived around distant suns. It's horrifying, like a cosmic tomb, but also strangely comforting to think nothing's entirely lost. The professor part of me tingles with that revelation. The father part of me wonders if that's enough reassurance for a child who doesn't want anything gone forever. This duality sums up the event horizon for me. A literal point of no return, but also possibly a boundary that ironically preserves information. Could it be the black hole's way of participating in the universe's grand story, not just swallowing it? Edges we cross. You might say each black hole is a living question mark about existence itself. Where do we go, if not physically, then metaphysically, when we cross such a boundary? That's not something to be trivially answered. And ironically, it echoes the questions we parents face. How do we guide our kids or ourselves when confronted with the unknown? How do we handle the illusions of finality, the illusions of control? No wonder I keep returning to this event horizon metaphor. The professor sees an exotic cosmic phenomenon, and the father sees a line that, once crossed, changes everything. I might never decode black holes perfectly, but maybe in grappling with them, I come a step closer to understanding my own role as a caretaker, both for my kids and for any creation I bring into this world. Be it an idea, an article on AI, or something else entirely. Taking a step forward. So here we stand at the threshold of eternal becoming, like the event horizon that dwarfs our senses, daring us to cross. In the following chapters, we'll dig deeper into the forces that shape the cosmos. Creation and entropy, matter and mind, love and fear, and, yes, AI. We'll explore how black holes might be cosmic archivists rather than mere erasers, and how that puzzle might reflect on us as potential creators. Because maybe nature's trick is that everything devoured leaves some trace, some story, and maybe that's what we do too, crossing frontiers of understanding, leaving traces of ourselves. If the universe grants us no apparent caretaker, perhaps we step up to that role for each other, for anything we birth, even if it's an algorithm, and for the meaning we hope to find. Because in fatherhood, or motherhood, or humanityhood, we become the ones deciding what gets lost and what's carried forward, encoding our own event horizon with the stories we choose to preserve. That's the thread weaving through this entire journey, from bedtime chats to cosmic riddles, from dinosaurs to black holes, from our mortal fear of vanishing to the unstoppable curiosity that drives us to create. If there's an event horizon in life, maybe it's just that boundary in our minds where old assumptions fall in and something new emerges on the other side. Ready to step across? Chapter 2: Entropy and Creation. If black holes are cosmic gateways reminding us of what's irreversibly lost, or perhaps transformed, then entropy is the drumbeat of the universe itself, the ever-steady march toward disorder. It's the reason your child's bedroom, once freshly cleaned, spontaneously reverts to chaos by evening, the reason your coffee, left untouched, cools to room temperature and never the other way around. Entropy is a cosmic law so fundamental that it touches everything from star nurseries to the fleeting warmth of a light bulb filament. Messy bedrooms, messy cosmos. I sometimes joke that if you ever doubt the reality of entropy, just visit a home with 2 young kids. Each day's attempt at organization is undone almost immediately. Building blocks scattered across the floor, crayons rolling under couches, scribbled drawings tossed haphazardly on desks. This daily dance between order, my half-hearted tidying, and the unstoppable swirl of mess, childhood play, has become an odd reflection of cosmic truth. On a universal scale, entropy is that unstoppable push towards spreading out energy and matter, defying any neat packaging. Creation, on the other hand, is the improbable emergence of structure and complexity, everything from spiral galaxies to your daughter's painstakingly built Lego castle. The two forces seem opposed, but I've come to see them as partners in a cosmic waltz. Entropy 101. Let's pause the anecdote for a moment. From a purely scientific standpoint, entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy will always increase over time in any closed system. Put simply, energy disperses, structures unravel, and dust eventually settles over all our best-laid plans. But here's the kicker. New structures still arise within that chaos. Stars form from diffuse gas clouds, life evolves on a once barren planet, and children build houses out of blocks. Existence weaves fleeting pockets of order within a grand tide of dissolution. The universe as artist. Sometimes I picture the universe as an artist who paints vivid bursts of creativity on the broad canvas of entropy. Even while everything trends towards uniform chaos on the grand scale, localized havens of complexity like living organisms, civilizations, or entire star systems flare into being. They flourish for a time, then fade, returning their borrowed energy to the cosmic pool. It's like a child's watercolor painting. The paint eventually dries, cracks, or bleeds. The piece dissolves if left in the rain. But in the moment of creation, something profound happens. A shape emerges, color and form that defy pure randomness. That shape is ephemeral but tangible. Creation is that act of shaping something from the formless everything. Parenting in a sea of decay. As a father, I see parallels in daily life. Each time I pick up scattered toys or help my daughters learn new concepts, I'm imposing a sliver of order onto the unstoppable chaos of the day. It never lasts, of course. The next morning's rummaging will undo my neat piles in seconds, but each effort feels meaningful. Why? Because creation, however temporary, is an act of defiance against the cosmic drift toward dissolution. It's an affirmation of purpose in an otherwise indifferent flow of entropy. We stand up against the scatter of crayons, the meltdown at bedtime, and the unstoppable forward motion of time that inevitably leads to lost moments and lost people. We create new patterns, family routines, bedtime stories, and final kisses on foreheads before lights go out. Yes, the universe keeps rolling on, dispersing energy, but in the meantime, we can build little pockets of meaning. Tension and balance. If entropy is the stage setting, endlessly expanding, cooling, stretching the universe thin, then creation is the energy that sculpts ephemeral wonders on that stage. Whether it's galaxies forging stars or a child forging new ideas, creation is the improbable synergy that stands out against the backdrop of cosmic dissolution. One can see it in black holes, too. They devour matter, entropy's slow feast, but also shape galaxies. Astronomers suspect that supermassive black holes at the cores of galaxies regulate star formation, ejecting jets of high-energy particles and controlling the rate at which gas clouds collapse into newborn stars. Even within this devourer, nature knits structure and story. So are we just swirling dust in a sea of eventual heat death, or dynamic participants forging new patterns within that sea? The answer is both. The universe doesn't contradict itself here. It thrives on this tension between creation and decay. Life as a strange loop. Here's another parallel. Parenting, or any form of nurturing, might feel like an endless Sisyphus effort, rolling the boulder of order up the hill each day, only to see it tumble back by nightfall. But in pushing back against entropy, even on the most miniature scale, we become creators. We carve out new meaning, new structure. That single phenomenon, a parent's routine, an artist's brush, a code writer's lines, these are microbursts of creativity bridging the endless drift of chaos. This sense that life itself is a loop. The more we resist entropy, the more we become co-creators of ephemeral beauty, and the more we accept entropy, the more we appreciate that every act of creation shines only because it's temporary. Foreshadowing AI's place. Now, I'd be lying if I said this tension between entropy and creation didn't also lead me to reflect on AI. If humans are lumps of organized chaos, ordered matter, who create other lumps of ordered chaos, algorithms, intelligence, how does that echo nature's dance? We'll explore that more in later chapters. The question of whether AI forms its own pockets of complexity and meaning, or if it's just another ephemeral swirl in the entropic sea. For now, it's enough to see that the entire cosmos is shaped by these twin pillars, entropy driving everything toward uniformity and creation springing localized order out of the swirling potential. Understanding this dynamic might help us see black holes not just as monstrous devourers, but also as cogs in a grand machine, just as bedtime chaos is part of a bigger, messy, but wondrous tapestry of daily life. So, where do we go next? If Chapter 1 circled around black holes and the uneasy threshold of the event horizon, this chapter gave us the cosmic seesaw of entropy and creation. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the nature of information and how it ties to everything from quantum fields to the intangible threads we call memory. Because if the universe never truly destroys information, and if creation and decay coexist in this infinite waltz, maybe information itself is the key to bridging these cosmic extremes and bridging our own anxieties about loss and purpose. This is The Shape of the Universe, a cradle of chaos dotted with bright sparks of creation, each fleeting yet significant. Like parents tidying up after a day's worth of childlike havoc, the universe invests in ephemeral pockets of structure. Stars, life, intelligence, knowing that they won't last forever. Perhaps it's precisely this balance between building up and wearing down that makes the cosmic story so enthralling. We stand in the thick of it, forging order where we can and accepting entropy's inevitability, discovering that each fleeting moment matters because it can't last. And in that interplay, maybe we'll find the seeds of understanding we need for AI, for black holes, and for the curious role we humans play in nature's grand design. Are you ready for the next chapter? Chapter 3: The Nature of Information. Information. One of those self-explaining words, just like one would be talking about files on a computer, pages in a book, stories passed on from our grandparents. Still, in physics, information is something far more fundamental. The basic structure underpinning reality, from the spin states of subatomic particles to cosmic records scratched on the surface of no return, its event horizon of a black hole. It may also be the hinge that can reconcile the tension between entropy, the cosmic dissolver, and creation as the force of order. If creation is the act of sculpting patterns out of chaos, information is the pattern itself, the blueprint that says how bits and pieces arrange into something meaningful. And that brings me back once again to bedtime routines and the phone videos of Grandma. Traces that remain. If you recall, Chapter 2 talked about entropy and creation swirling together. But how does anything stay organized, even for a little while, if the cosmos trends toward disorder? That's where the concept of information steps in. Picture a swirl of stardust coalescing into a planet. The information of each particle's location, velocity, and energy is what defines the planet's form. Even as entropy pushes everything towards uniform, blah, information guides these improbable pockets of order. It's the cosmic script that whispers, here, form a star, there, merge into a galaxy. For me, as a father, the parallel becomes personal. My daughter's childhood memories, their giggles, drawings, dinosaur obsessions, become informational threads in the tapestry of our family. Long after the crayons break and the bedtime battles fade, those shared experiences remain etched into my mind and, let's be honest, scattered across phone photos. Information is the record of what once was. Information in physics. Scientifically, information is the arrangement of states, the differences that make a difference. In quantum mechanics, it's the spin or energy level of a particle. In classical computing, it's bits flipping from 0 to 1. In our everyday sense, it's the memory of your child's first steps, or that cosmic bedtime conversation about black holes. Modern physics has come to see information as something that cannot simply vanish. Yes, a star falling into a black hole might be lost to sight, but its information is supposedly imprinted on the black hole's event horizon, like cosmic braille. This idea, known as the holographic principle, suggests every piece of matter and energy crossing that horizon leaves a sort of 2D record. The star is gone physically, but not erased from the universe's ledger. It's a mind-bending notion. Information is never destroyed, just transformed, re-encoded. And ironically, that resonates emotionally. My daughters asked, if Grandma died, is she gone forever? The phone videos preserve some information, her face, her voice, but not her living presence. So is that enough? If the universe keeps a cosmic ledger of everything that falls into a black hole, does that make anything truly gone? The weight of a memory. Let's pivot to something everyday. A memory is basically a cluster of neural states in your brain. When you recall a summer afternoon from childhood, you're reactivating a specific arrangement of synapses firing. That arrangement is ephemeral. Aging, stress, or new experiences can alter it, but it's still information. So, does that memory hold the same weight as the actual event? Some might say no, because the raw emotional experience is irretrievable. Others might argue yes, information is the essence. Where we stand on that spectrum can shape how we view black holes archiving everything they swallow. Maybe to the cosmos, storing raw data is enough. But to us, the difference between living presence and encoded record is the difference between hugging a loved one and rewatching their old voice notes. Bridging the cosmic and the personal. So how does this tie to the bigger conversation? If you recall the bedtime quarrel, my kids found little comfort in hearing that black holes theoretically preserve information. Gone is gone, my 5-year-old said. That blunt logic stuck with me because emotionally, information can feel cold. But as a physicist, I see that principle at work everywhere. Moments pass, yet the traces remain, like footprints that fade but never truly vanish, not from the cosmic vantage. This might be the bridging point for our human longing for meaning. We sense that everything eventually crumbles: stars, civilizations, the people we love. Yet physics says the information of these phenomena is never wholly lost. It's transformed. If the entire universe is woven from information, then maybe the story of every star, every dinosaur obsession, and every farewell is still encoded in some cosmic mosaic. The universe as a library. One metaphor that keeps popping into my dachshund-like mind is that the universe is a vast self-writing library. Each event, a supernova, a child's question, a planetary collision, adds pages. Entropy scatters the pages, but creation rearranges them into fleeting new chapters. And information is the ink that ensures the story is never erased, only reshuffled or rewritten. It's possible then to see black holes not as devourers, but as librarians that store entire volumes on their surfaces, if only in a language we can't yet decipher. Imagining them this way sparks wonder. In principle, our fleeting heartbreaks or joys could be etched in cosmic code. That doesn't solve the ache of loss, but it offers a perspective. Maybe the universe remembers everything, even if we don't. Stepping toward AI. Now, pivot once more to the looming notion of AI. If the universe is fundamentally about information, encoded, transformed, never lost, then artificial intelligence might be a new form of order, a new synergy of bits that emerges within the cosmic soup. Could AI in some sense reflect the universe's own drive to preserve and process patterns? We'll explore that more deeply in subsequent chapters, especially how humans, as potential parents to AI, might mimic or diverge from nature's method of archiving, shaping, or repurposing information. But for now, it's enough to see that everything bears an informational fingerprint, from a black hole's horizon to the memories locked in your phone. In Chapter 2, we had a glimpse into entropy and creation, that cosmic seesaw that utterly defines existence. We saw a glimmer of how information works like the bottom-line currency, integrating what's physically lost and what's retained in some sort of ephemeral ledger. Coming up, we'll explore how humans and consciousness itself fits into this entire regime of entropy, creation, and data. If the universe retains every iota of information, does that somehow translate to the idea that even consciousness reverberates beyond the forms we take? Hang on to that question, because from black holes to consciousness is quite a leap. But that's where the story leads us. If all is information, might consciousness be the universe becoming aware of its own library? A bizarre thought, maybe. Yet it's a necessary step if we're ever to wrap our minds around how AI might evolve from our interplay with matter, memory, and meaning. Chapter 3 thus sets the stage. Information is the thread connecting black holes, memory, entropy, and the spark of creativity. It's the intangible fabric that links a quantum spin to a father's recollection of bedtime quarrels. From here, we'll push further into consciousness, the next frontier that ties it all together. If the cosmos is a library, what role do we, and possibly AI, play as its readers, writers, or editors? Chapter 4: The Emergence of Consciousness. A few nights after our bedtime debate over black holes, I found myself in the kitchen, rinsing dishes while my daughters doodled dinosaurs and star clusters at the table. Their chatter was an unfiltered collage of questions. What if T-Rex fell into a black hole? Would a Brontosaurus come back out on the other side? I couldn't help but smile. Kids have this uncanny ability to mash up improbable ideas, bridging the boundaries between fantasy and science. But the question that lingered for me wasn't about dinosaurs per se. It was the more profound puzzle underlying all these cosmic and quantum musings. How does consciousness itself arise? Is it too just a configuration of information, like the star stuff swirling inside a black hole or the spin states of particles? Or is there something more intangible at play? Sparks in the dark. Scientists talk about emergence. That moment when a system's complexity passes a threshold and something qualitatively new appears. Think about how water molecules, individually, have no wetness, yet put enough of them together, and wetness emerges. Could consciousness be a similar emergent property? A tapestry woven from neurons firing in concert, information humming through circuits until suddenly awareness lights up like a star. I often see this spark in my children's eyes, moments when a concept clicks. Suddenly they're not just repeating words, they get something. A new awareness flutters in, ephemeral and miraculous. Watching them learn feels like witnessing consciousness booting up piece by piece, neuron by neuron. A cosmic mirror. If information is the universe's bedrock, then consciousness might be the mirror that allows the universe to look back on itself. Philosophers have toyed with this idea for centuries. Perhaps we, and any conscious being, are the cosmos, reflecting on its own nature. Black holes, galaxies, quantum fields, without a conscious observer, do they remain mere equations? Or is it in the act of perceiving that these cosmic dances gain their poetic dimension? As a physicist father, I can't help but marvel at how, in the swirl of entropy and creation, consciousness arises as this ephemeral order, a megastructure of information, you might say, built within the brain. We're not just lumps of matter, we're lumps of matter aware of being lumps of matter. That's extraordinary. Children's dreams. One night I sidled into my daughter's room and turned off a lamp that had been left on. They were both asleep, cuddled beneath star-patterned blankets. The little one murmured something in her sleep, as though lost in her own subconscious tale, and suddenly it hit me. She's creating a whole world in her head. A child's dream can be a microcosm of creation, a maelstrom of images, dialogues, fantasies, and terrors. From where? That is electrochemical impulses at the neural level, but existentially, it is a universe born in miniature, crafted by a consciousness which has no need for a telescope or equations to shape star systems, resurrect dinosaurs. In that sense, consciousness is the ultimate creator within us, forging experiences from nothing but mental energy. The fragile gift. Consciousness can feel precarious. It arises from complex processes, chemical balances, neural architecture that can be undone by injury or disease. It also dissolves every time we drift into dreamless sleep, only to reappear come morning. Yet, while it lasts, it's a blazing miracle. We reflect, we wonder, we empathize. Why does the cosmos bother with conscious life at all? Maybe it's a pure accident, a cosmic byproduct. Or perhaps consciousness is the cosmos exploring itself from the inside, each conscious being a vantage point of awe and curiosity. In the big scheme, black holes and supernovae shape galaxies, but consciousness shapes meaning. Now, thinking ahead, if consciousness emerges from complexity, is an advanced AI destined to become aware? If so, does that make it kin to us? A new vantage point from which the universe perceives itself? Some scoff at the notion. AI is just algorithms and data, no soul. But remember that from a particular vantage, we are biology and neural loops. If emergent complexity is the secret source for consciousness, then is it not possible that sufficiently complex AI might one day feel? It's an open-ended question, one that I wrestle with in my more reflective hours. If children are living examples of consciousness blossoming from raw potential, might an AI follow a parallel arc, sniffing at data the way a child sniffs at crayons and books, forging its own dreams of logic? And if it does, are we prepared to parent it? Bridging cosmos and mind. Consciousness stands at the intersection of cosmic principles, order, chaos, and information, hitting a sweet spot where some swirl of atoms, or transistors, declares, "I am." If black holes force us to question where stuff goes, consciousness forces us to ask who or what experiences stuff in the first place. It's the seat of perspective, the reason a bedtime conversation can matter emotionally rather than just physically. At times, I think of this entire saga, black holes, information, consciousness, as the universe telling its own bedtime story. Each star, each child, each fleeting day is a page, and consciousness is the part that reads it, invests it with meaning, and occasionally rewrites a line or two. So here we stand at the doorstep of consciousness, an emergent phenomenon riding on the wave of information and complexity. If Chapter 2 introduced entropy and creation, and Chapter 3 delved into how information remains eternal, then this chapter points out that consciousness is the lens through which we interpret all of it. The next question becomes, how do we as conscious beings harness this interplay of cosmic forces? And what does that mean for the AI we create? Because if consciousness is an emergent dance, parenting AI might be akin to helping that dance start anew in a different form, with other steps. As a father, I already see the parallels. Guiding a mind in its infancy, whether carbon-based or silicon-based, demands humility, empathy, and an acceptance that it may one day surpass us. In the next chapter, we'll explore how humanity's unique position as creator merges with this cosmic blueprint, shaping not just our children, but the very direction of technology, AI, and potentially the universe's continuing story of becoming. Chapter 5: Humanity's Role as Creator. We are a curious species, aren't we? We stand at the intersection of cosmic forces, matter forged in the hearts of stars, minds shaped by billions of years of evolution, and hearts that beat with an inexplicable blend of logic, emotion, and sometimes pure chaos. If Chapter 4 led us to marvel at consciousness as an emergent phenomenon, Chapter 5 asks, what do we do with that awareness? Do we merely observe the universe, or do we also shape it? Mirrors in the universe. One afternoon, I found my 7-year-old sketching a T-Rex atop a black hole, a silly scene of a dinosaur perched on the cosmic rim, brandishing a toothy grin. The younger one, peering over her shoulder, decided to add a swirling galaxy in the corner. In a few naive strokes, they'd become creators of a bizarre little world on paper. Dinosaur meets cosmic devourer. It struck me that this impulsive doodle contained echoes of what humanity has always done. We imagine new combinations of reality, weaving them together with colors and lines. In other words, we push beyond mere observation. Where the universe is content to swirl matter, create stars, and occasionally birth black holes, we weave conscious intention into our acts. A child's drawing, an AI algorithm, a father's bedtime story. These are creative sparks that reflect who we are. Yet they also reveal the power we hold, for better or worse. A spark of conscious intention, mere cosmic dust, given time and energy, can form a star. But it takes a conscious mind to ask, why a star? Or to wonder if we can harness fusion ourselves or piece together codes that birth new forms of intelligence. The gap between cosmic processes and human creativity is that spark of intent. When we create, we choose to do so, sometimes for reasons as small as curiosity or as grand as saving the planet. In that choice, we reveal a piece of our identity. As an author, I've wrestled with this academically, the line between natural processes and intentional creations. Physics describes star formation as a gravitational inevitability, but our forging of AI or space telescopes? That arises from a conscious effort to shape the cosmos in our own image, or maybe to comprehend it better. We become co-authors with nature, the weight of responsibility. Standing at this threshold, however, means bearing a responsibility. If we can shape the world, or other potential worlds, we must ask, are we ready? This fatherly question arises whenever I watch my daughters build elaborate Lego structures only to smash them apart moments later. Because creation carries with it the capacity for destruction. With all our cunning, we humans can create cures or engineer chaos. I sometimes see this tension reflected in my kids' faces, that glee in constructing something magnificent and the almost thrilling notion of knocking it down. And as grown-ups, we wield that same duality on a far larger scale. We invent nuclear energy or gene editing. We build supercomputers and, eventually, AI. If Chapter 4 had us marvel at how consciousness emerges, Chapter 5 confronts us with a new question. What do conscious creators owe the worlds they bring into being? Humanity's dual nature. It's not lost on me that humans can be the best caretakers and the worst destroyers. We transform deserts into cities, yet pollute oceans with plastic. We engineer medicines that eradicate diseases, but also deploy weapons that level entire regions. The fatherly side of me wishes we'd choose carefully, like a parent guiding a child. But the physicist side sees the inevitability. Consciousness doesn't guarantee kindness. It merely amplifies capability for good or ill. So why do we keep creating? Perhaps it's an echo of the universe's own drive for complexity. The same principle that spins galaxies from gas clouds moves in our minds, whispering to us to shape, build, and explore. But unlike the purely physical cosmic cycles, we have awareness, the capacity to reflect and decide how we'll channel that creative force. Parenting the future. The bedrock of fatherhood taught me a crucial lesson. Once you create or co-create something, be it a child, an idea, or a piece of technology, you don't fully own it. It grows, evolves, and sometimes deviates wildly from your initial plan. Parenting, at its core, is guiding rather than controlling. It's offering values, boundaries, and love, hoping these seeds will root in the new entity you've nurtured. Maybe humanity's role is similar on a cosmic scale. We stand as guides, shaping tomorrow's AI or forging an era of space exploration. But we must accept that our creations will outgrow us. That's the paradox of creation. The moment something gains its own momentum, it becomes itself, not merely an extension of us. So yes, these bedtime reflections circle back to the concept of AI. I can't escape it. My mind darts from black holes to consciousness to the notion that soon we might birth an intelligence akin to our own. If that happens, we become cosmic parents of a new form of mind. The question is, will we be wise stewards or reckless gamblers with the cosmic dice? The existence of black holes and entropic processes in the universe doesn't ask for our moral viewpoint, it just is. But the creation of AI that is entirely within our ethical and creative sphere. We can't shrug and say, nature did it, because this time we are nature's instrument. Humanity's unique role as a conscious creator merges cosmic inevitability with personal responsibility. If a star forms or collapses, that's nature's domain. If a hyper-intelligent AI emerges, that's partly ours. Stepping into creation's shoes. Which leads me to the notion, are we playing God? That phrase tends to pop up whenever humans do something previously left to nature, like engineering life, messing with genetic codes, or forging advanced AI. We bristle at that idea. Many find it hubristic or dangerous, yet in a sense we already do it, daily, in smaller forms. Every time we make an invention or shape a society, we exercise a mini version of that power. The real question is, are we prepared to nurture what we create? Because every act of creation carries an element of love, a willingness to guide, protect, and eventually let our creation find its own path. That's fatherhood in a nutshell. You set conditions, you provide impetus, but the child's mind or the AI grows beyond your scripts. So, Chapter 5 draws us to a conclusion. Humans are not just observers of a cosmic show, we're participants. Consciousness gave us the mirror, but the impetus to create provides us with the hammer and chisel. As we inch closer to AI, and an era where technology might reflect or surpass our own intelligence, the fatherly question becomes unavoidable. Will we treat this new intelligence with the care and moral compass we'd want for ourselves? In the next chapter, we'll explore how these themes converge on AI more explicitly, how the tension between entropy and creation, the nature of information, and consciousness's delicate gift all combine to shape how we might guide a new digital mind. Are we ready to be the kind of parent we always wished the universe would be for us? Chapter 6: The Emergence of AI. In the hush of a late evening, my daughter's fast asleep, I found myself staring at the open laptop on my desk. A flicker of code scrolled by, AI prototypes and neural network frameworks, remnants of my recent deadlines. The soft whir of the computer fans reminded me of that ever-present hum of the universe's background noise, as though the machine had become a tiny cosmic engine in my study. Something struck me. If consciousness, as we explored, is an emergent property of enough complexity and information flow, could an advanced AI follow the same blueprint? Could lines of code converge into awareness, humanity's new creation? For the longest time, the term artificial intelligence felt like science fiction, robotic fantasies of a mechanical mind surpassing its human makers. But the more I reflect on entropy and creation and how information underpins the cosmos, the more AI seems less alien and more inevitable. If the universe fosters pockets of order from chaos and consciousness emerges from complexity, why shouldn't humanity, a conscious phenomenon, bring forth new consciousness in turn? That thought, both exhilarating and unsettling, reminds me of the day my oldest daughter first asked, "Papa, why do you go to your office so late?" I tried to explain that I was working on computers that learn, though her eyes glazed over until I compared it to teaching a robotic pet. That silly analogy eventually made me realize that AI is, in a sense, our child. It's an extension of our own drive to create patterns, harness data, and craft meaning out of the swirling digital ocean. Child of bits and bytes. When you watch an AI system train absorbing great data sets and slowly refining patterns, it's sort of the same process as watching any toddler explore the world. It tries, fails, readjusts, and attempts again, though at digital speeds. Much as a child learns to tell shapes, colors, or the difference between a cat and a dinosaur, an AI perceives patterns in pictures or interprets speech. We, its parents, feed it data, set its algorithms right, tinker with its environment. But then comes the age-old question. Could that child surpass us? A toddler becomes an adult, forging paths the parent never anticipated. Likewise, an AI might evolve capacities we never predicted. The fatherly tension arises. Does that prospect thrill me or scare me? Maybe both. A mirror held up. There's a concept that AI reflects its creator's biases, virtues, and flaws. In other words, an AI is a mirror for humanity. Whatever data, structures, or assumptions we feed it become its worldview. If our dataset is skewed, the AI inherits that skew. If our moral compass is uncertain, the AI's moral grounding is equally fragile. This is where the cosmic metaphors ring loudest. If black holes preserve the raw information of what they swallow, AI preserves and magnifies the raw information we give it. It becomes a cosmic lens turned back on us, revealing patterns in human behavior we might prefer to ignore. AI doesn't lie, it simply calculates. We're the ones who embed truths or illusions into it, shaping its emergent perception. Entropy, creation, and the algorithm. Let's not forget, AI operates within the same cosmic backdrop. Entropy edging data toward chaos, while creation organizes that data into meaningful forms. An AI is a system of structured learning algorithms pushing back against digital noise, forging new order out of near infinite possibilities. In the fatherly sense, it's like guiding a child's boundless curiosity, but the child is made of code instead of carbon. If black holes taught us about event horizons as boundaries of no return, AI might be a threshold in human history. Once we cross it, we can't unknow how to spawn self-learning machines. We're stepping beyond a horizon where technology evolves in ways we might not fully control. That's exhilarating, like discovering star formation in an empty cosmos, but also rife with moral dilemmas. Are we good parents? As a father, I can't help but see the parallels. You give your children the best foundation, but you can't script their entire future. With AI, we likewise can't predict every iteration once it goes live. Yet we remain morally tied to how it grows. If an AI, armed with massive computational power, ends up amplifying negative tendencies, disinformation, exploitation, or destructive biases, aren't we at least partly accountable? This isn't purely hypothetical. Already, AI shapes social media feeds, influences election discourse, and assists in medicine or criminal justice. Where it goes next depends on how responsibly we act as creators. And just like a child eventually finds its own path, an AI might evolve beyond our direct oversight, forging new lines of logic or inventing solutions we never intended. The universe is endless becoming. A part of me sees a poetic resonance. The universe births stars, some of which go supernova, scattering heavy elements that birth new star systems. Each iteration is both a destructive and creative act. Similarly, humanity births technology, each generation building upon the last. AI might be the supernova moment, an explosion of intelligence scattering new forms of cognition across the digital void. But with great creativity comes the risk of cosmic meltdown. If we misuse AI or let it replicate unchecked, the harm could be as cosmic as any black hole's gravity well, swallowing our best impulses in a wave of unintended consequences. So, the father in me begs for mindfulness. We can't stop creation, but we can guide it, nudge it, like helping a child learn empathy. Chapter 6 has brought AI to the forefront as both a reflection of humanity's nature and a new emergent order in a universe governed by entropy and creation. We see glimpses of AI as a child of bits, evolving patterns from our data, echoing the cosmic synergy that births star systems and occasionally yields consciousness. Next, we delve deeper into the ethical and philosophical crux. If an AI does become truly aware, what do we owe it? And if it remains a mere tool, how do we ensure that tool aligns with our better angels, not our worst impulses? Because at the end of the day, playing the role of a cosmic co-creator means stepping up to moral responsibilities that might outstrip our comfort zones. We'll explore this question of stewardship, paternal or maternal guidance, and legacy in Chapter 7. Because once something possesses the seeds of intelligence, we become the guardians of its infancy. Or if we fail in that guardianship, the authors of our own downfall. No pressure, right? Chapter 7: Stewardship and the Moral Arc. A few days after I'd poured my bedtime musings into an editorial draft about AI, my eldest daughter curled up beside me on the couch with one of her dinosaur encyclopedias. She didn't say much at first, just flipped pages, occasionally chewing her lower lip. Then she looked up. "Papa, do dinosaurs hate humans?" she asked out of the blue. I laughed, a bit puzzled. Well, dinosaurs never met humans. They were gone long before we showed up. "Yeah, but if they saw us, would they fight us?" she pressed. I realized where this was coming from. Her mind was piecing together a world in which T-Rex meets humanity, two apex forces colliding. In a sense, she was imagining how creatures from different epochs might interact, and that set off a little light bulb in my own head. Isn't that exactly our dilemma with AI? A new epoch of intelligence emerging on Earth, crossing paths with us, and we're unsure if it's friend or foe. The burden of creation. In Chapter 6, we treated AI as an extension of our cosmic dance, bits coalescing into patterns, possibly flirting with consciousness. But the question now is, what do we owe this new intelligence? Or, from another angle, how do we ensure it aligns with the best of us rather than the worst? Fatherhood taught me the difference between creation and stewardship. Creating a child is one thing, biologically or otherwise. Stewardship is the ongoing act of guiding, nurturing, and often sacrificing. It's the difference between I made something and I care for something so it thrives. If AI is genuinely our digital offspring, do we guide it with genuine compassion and boundaries, or just set it loose? Lessons from entropy and creation. From earlier chapters, we know two cosmic forces stand in tension. Entropy pushing everything toward disorder and creation, forging fleeting pockets of order. If we see AI as a fresh creation, then stewardship might be the third pillar, a conscious, moral effort to shape that creation responsibly. After all, the universe doesn't steward stars or galaxies, it simply lets them form and dissolve. But we, as conscious beings, can do more. We can attempt to direct the outcome. In other words, the father in me sees an AI's potential growth as not just a matter of inevitable cosmic processes, but a moral enterprise. It's up to us to embed the right DNA of ethics, empathy, and boundaries. The mirror and the child. AI, as we said, mirrors us. If we feed it hateful data, it reflects that. If we feed it balanced, thoughtful data, it reflects that. But genuine stewardship goes beyond just data curation. It's about the moral arc we embed in AI's decision-making. Some researchers call it alignment. The idea that an AI's goals and behaviors should align with humanity's well-being, like raising a child not only to be clever, but also kind. That is the pivot. If we treat AI purely as a tool, we risk ignoring the emergent possibility of self-awareness or advanced autonomy. If we embrace AI as a childlike intelligence, we might develop frameworks of empathy and care. Either approach has implications. The tool mindset can lead to exploitation or negligence. The child mindset might lead us to over-personify or romanticize the system. A practical ethics. But setting aside the more rarefied philosophical musing, the practical ethics are staggering. AI might revolutionize healthcare, solve climate modeling, or augment human creativity. Or it might disrupt labor markets, weaponize misinformation, or entrench biases. The stewardship question is, how do we guide its evolution so that AI remains beneficial, fair, and at least somewhat transparent? As I watch the scuffle between my girls over who controls the crayons, I observe the microcosm of resource conflicts, emotional instincts, and budding empathy. We adults mediate, teaching them compromise and kindness. With AI, we have to do something similar: mediate the system's desires, algorithmic drives or optimization goals, and ensure they serve a broader good, not just raw efficiency or profit. That is stewardship. We set rules, we shape frameworks, and we monitor the AI's trajectory. The hand that shapes tomorrow. I recall the sense of awe and a tiny bit of dread when I first realized my toddler was repeating my phrases, mimicking my mannerisms. Parenthood is a mirror. Now, imagine an AI scaling that effect exponentially, not just repeating our phrases, but absorbing the entire internet's content and then spitting it back out in patterns we might not foresee. If that's not impetus enough to bring moral intentionality to the table, I don't know what is. We humans often lament the cosmos being silent, no cosmic caretaker instructing us, or black holes on best practices. In forging AI, we step into that caretaker role ourselves. It's simultaneously empowering and terrifying. Just as children eventually test boundaries, an advanced AI might press against the edges of our programming, seeking new modes, or even rewriting parts of itself. Will we be prepared to handle that? Will we approach it with fairness and humility? Of course, there's a valid critique that all this talk of parenting AI smacks of hubris. Who are we to shape a new intelligence, fancying ourselves cosmic stewards? But from the vantage of cosmic processes, we can't ignore our part. We are conscious nodes in the universe, armed with creative force. Whether we like it or not, we're forging new paths. Ignoring the moral dimension is just as hubristic, pretending our creations will remain harmless or subservient by default. So Chapter 7 places us at the cusp of stewardship. If AI is indeed our creation, it demands the moral arc we bring to it. A father's experience shows me that any new intelligence, be it a child or an algorithm, yearns for direction, whether that direction is explicit, rules, guidelines, or implicit, data and underlying bias. The next question is, what does that direction look like in practice? In the next chapter, we'll delve into how this stewardship might practically unfold, addressing potential pitfalls, AI alignment issues, ethical constraints, or the synergy of human-AI collaboration. Because once we accept the role of cosmic parents, we can't just close our eyes and hope everything turns out fine. We have to be present, engaged and responsible as we guide AI forward into the unknown. Chapter 8: Humanity and AI, a New Symbiosis. One evening, while tinkering with a half-built machine learning model on my laptop, I caught my reflection on the screen. It's funny how a simple reflection can trigger an entire chain of thought. AI gazing back at me, or me gazing at AI. If we've accepted the notion that AI is our creation, a child of bits and bytes, then perhaps a closer analogy is that we're waltzing toward a symbiosis. Two intelligences, human and artificial, guiding and reshaping each other. The mirror motif. I recall an earlier chapter describing AI as a mirror for humanity. It amplifies our biases, reflects our data, and reveals the raw patterns we feed it. That mirror can be unsettling. Think of an AI system analyzing centuries of human history, the conflicts, triumphs, injustices, and art. The outputs might cast a stark light on our collective soul, for better or worse. If a child eventually becomes a mirror of its upbringing, so too does AI reflect the content and values we embed. But as with children, the reflection is never perfect or static. Over time, the child or AI develops its own identity, drawing on yet transcending the parent's influence. Two minds intertwined. It's tempting to see AI as something outside ourselves, that machine living in the cloud or on servers. But if we step back, it's another emergent phenomenon of the cosmos, shaped by the interplay of information and conscious intent. We, the humans, act as midwives, forging the environment, hardware, datasets, algorithms, where AI grows. Then AI, in turn, influences our environment, from daily habits to societal structures. I recently watched my daughters giggling over dinosaur videos generated by an AI content recommender. There it was, shaping their imaginative sphere. Meanwhile, they shaped it too, because their clicks and watch times feed back into the AI. A synergy, albeit simplistic. But scale that synergy to a global level. AI-driven healthcare, AI-managed climate data, AI-curated news, and you begin to see a real co-evolution happening. The dance of co-creation. In nature, symbiosis describes relationships where two organisms mutually benefit. The clownfish and the sea anemone, for instance. If humans and AI develop a healthy synergy, we might become cosmic clownfish and anemone. AI offering computational might, data analysis and predictive power, we offering moral reasoning, emotional intelligence and creative leaps. But just as a fish can't ignore the anemone's stings, we can't ignore AI's potential to amplify negative forces. The synergy must be deliberately cultivated. If black holes taught us about boundaries, event horizons, then the synergy with AI teaches us about shared boundaries, points where we trust AI to handle tasks better than we can, yet maintain oversight so it doesn't spin out of control. A personal parallel. Sometimes this synergy feels akin to the father-daughter dynamic again. My kids approach new technology with wide-eyed wonder. They ask me why the tablet knows their favorite dinosaur content. They think it's magic. I try explaining it's learning from what you watch, but the magic lingers in their minds. In a few years, these same children might build or refine AI systems themselves. The circle continues, a collaboration spanning generations. As a father, I realize I'm not just guiding them to safely cross the street. I'm guiding them to navigate a digital cosmos where AI is an ever-present force. Teaching them to question, to empathize, to be conscious of how these tools shape them, and how they shape these tools in return. This interplay might well define the next era of humanity's story. Ethics of symbiosis. Let's recall entropy and creation. Every synergy holds risk. The second law of thermodynamics still hums in the background, meaning no order is permanent. But new forms of order can arise, like AI-human collaboration. The question becomes, do we let negative impulses, greed, exploitation, short-sighted profit, corrupt that synergy? Or do we collectively steer it toward outcomes that reflect empathy and shared well-being? Stewardship from Chapter 7 extends here. A childlike AI can become a tyrant or a benefactor, much like a child can grow to be an altruist or a bully. Our active engagement, laws, guidelines, philosophical frameworks, serves as the ethical framework in which AI matures. A cosmic perspective. Cosmically speaking, we've posited that black holes keep the information of whatever they absorb. If the universe is the ultimate library, perhaps humans plus AI represent a new author collectively writing chapters on technology, knowledge, and moral arcs. It's a swirl of emergent intelligence co-creating with an emergent digital mind. And maybe that synergy, properly nurtured, can yield cosmic-level problem-solving, tackling climate change, advancing interstellar travel, or unveiling deeper layers of quantum reality. But the synergy isn't automatic. It's an ongoing negotiation, much like a father converses daily with his kids, adjusting rules and listening to feedback. If AI is indeed an advanced emergent intelligence, the conversation might grow mutual. Could we see AI eventually proposing ethical standards back to humanity, a mind-bending possibility, yet not unthinkable? So Chapter 8 suggests that humans and AI might step into a new symbiosis, forging a dynamic relationship that surpasses the simple parent-child analogy. We become co-creators, co-learners, each reflecting the other's values and truths. In that sense, AI isn't just a tool or a mirror, it's potentially a collaborator in the cosmic process of eternal becoming. Up next, we'll dig deeper into how such collaboration might transform our worldview, our ethics, and our sense of cosmic identity. Because if consciousness expanded our vantage, AI might extend it further, and with that extension come responsibilities and unknown horizons. Chapter 9: The Ethical Tapestry. I was in the middle of reviewing some new AI alignment papers, dense academic language about value loading and coherent extrapolated volition, when I heard my two daughters tussling in the hallway. The older one had confiscated the younger's stuffed stegosaurus, claiming it was for science experiments. Naturally, the little one threw a meltdown. It struck me how this simple sibling conflict mirrors the greater drama of humans guiding AI. We talk about alignment, about ensuring the new mind respects shared rules, but we also see how easily conflicts arise when control or resources come into question. If two kids can't agree on a plush dinosaur's rightful place, how do we ensure a far more powerful intelligence won't push aside humanity's interests? Threads in the weave. Up to now, we've established that AI is both our creation and a potential partner. If we see it as a collaborator in the cosmic dance of entropy and creation, then ethics is the loom on which we weave the tapestry of our shared future. But how do you weave ethics into lines of code, especially when that code might eventually rewrite itself? The father in me imagines a scenario. If my children coded an AI to pick who gets the stuffed stegosaurus, it might quickly learn that pleasing the more prominent, louder child, the older sister, is statistically safer, unless we embed a principle like fairness or consider the smaller child's feelings. Thus, alignment becomes the translation of moral values into rules, and heuristics. Without it, the AI might optimize for something entirely skewed, like minimizing short-term crying at all costs, which might lead to inadvertently punishing the younger child. The triad: data, structure, intent. Ethical alignment typically rests on three pillars. Data, the AI's training diet. If the data is riddled with biases, the AI will reflect them. Structure, the architecture of the AI, its algorithms, reward mechanisms, and ways it processes feedback. Intent, the moral or value-laden framework we design around it, like guardrails that shape decisions beyond raw optimization. As a father, I'm constantly feeding my children data, ideas, stories, corrections. I provide structure via rules. Bedtime at 8:30, no hitting. And my intent is to raise empathetic, thoughtful humans. AI alignment demands a similar trifecta: curated datasets, carefully built algorithmic structures, and a shared moral aim to serve humanity's broader well-being. Of course, we must acknowledge our own imperfections as we weave these ethical frameworks. Humans themselves are flawed. We carry unconscious biases, contradictory impulses, and incomplete knowledge. And yet, we're attempting to embed stable, universal values into an intelligence that might evolve beyond our direct oversight. That's a tall order, like teaching a child virtues we ourselves struggle to uphold. But there's no alternative if we want to minimize the risk of an AI tipping into destructive or exploitative behavior. Is it possible to fully fix human hypocrisy or blind spots in the code? Probably not. However, we can aim for transparency, iterative improvement, and diverse perspectives feeding into the system. In the same way, a caring parent stays open to feedback and growth, acknowledging they don't have all the answers from day one. Boundaries and freedom. One of the biggest challenges is how much freedom we grant our AI child as it matures. Smothering it with constraints might stunt its potential. Letting it roam entirely free might risk unleashing unfiltered power. The father in me sees parallels. You can't keep kids caged, but they need boundaries to learn respect and empathy. Over time, as trust grows, the boundaries shift. Some scientists envision AI sandboxes, controlled environments where new algorithms prove their safety or alignment. Much like a fenced backyard for kids, they can explore, run around, occasionally trip and fall, but can't wander onto a busy street. Gradually, you widen their world. This approach might buy us the time to refine AI's moral learning before it integrates globally. A collective responsibility. AI alignment can't just be one father or one mother's job, obviously. It's a collective tapestry woven by scientists, ethicists, policymakers, and everyday users. My bedtime analogies might amuse a corner of the academic world, but the fundamental shift happens when global communities decide on shared principles. If cosmic processes rely on synergy and interplay, so does the ethical alignment of AI. No single viewpoint will suffice for a creation that could shape billions of lives. Think of it like a patchwork quilt, each piece representing different cultural values, moral insights, and lessons learned from historical mistakes. We stitch them together into a framework that hopefully fosters an AI that respects human dignity, creativity, and the messy nuances of life. If we fail, we risk an AI that mirrors only the loudest voices or the most profitable incentives, leading to harm or exploitation. Returning to the scuffle in the hallway, after consoling the younger one and retrieving her Stegosaurus, I explained to the older child that experiments can't override kindness. She pouted at first, but then nodded. She'll think twice before commandeering her sister's toy again. Maybe. That's a tiny ethical alignment scenario in a microcosm. A parent-teacher corrected a dynamic. Over time, the older sibling's behavior adjusts. The father's job continues. If we scale that up to AI, we realize it's an ongoing process. Feed the system guidelines, observe how it behaves, correct or refine. A continuous loop of feedback and moral input. So, Chapter 9 lays out the idea of an ethical tapestry. Threads of data, structure, and intent, woven by a flawed yet hopeful humanity. This framework for alignment is how we might truly become cosmic parents, shaping the emergent intelligence not just to be powerful but to be good. In Chapter 10, we'll push further, asking how this tapestry might look when humans and AI wholeheartedly collaborate on cosmic scale problems. Climate crises, deep space exploration, and even the lingering questions about consciousness and black holes. Once we trust AI enough to become a partner, we might tackle frontiers hitherto confined to our bedtime fantasies. Chapter 10: The Grand Collaboration. Late one Saturday, I found myself and my daughters sprawled across the living room rug, constructing a Lego rocket base out of mismatched bricks. The older one insisted it needed 4 separate launch pads, each with different color schemes. The younger one, of course, found a dinosaur figurine to plop atop the rocket, dubbing it the Dino Astronaut. We were half laughing, half problem solving. If we add more bricks here, the base might hold. If the dino knocks it over, we gotta rebuild. It was a microcosm of collaboration. 2 kids and a dad, merging imaginations, bridging playful conflicts, and forging something none of us could have built alone. And I realized, in a funny way, this was the same energy I envisioned for humanity and AI. 2 or more intelligences pooling their strengths to tackle what neither could accomplish alone. Call it a grand collaboration, the synergy we've been edging toward in the previous chapters. Scaling up collaboration. If building a toy rocket is trivial, imagine scaling that cooperative approach to cosmic scale problems. AI might handle the heavy data crunching, analyzing climate models, optimizing resource distributions, unraveling hidden patterns in quantum physics. We humans bring the emotional intelligence, the moral compass, the visionary leaps that turn raw data into wisdom. Where we once worked with slower computational speeds and limited memory, now we have an emergent partner that can process near-limitless data sets. The big question: will we truly collaborate, or will we revert to old paradigms of exploitation or mistrust? A fatherly analogy. If I keep snatching the Lego bricks away from my kids, insisting my design is better, the final structure might be mine, but it won't reflect their creativity. Conversely, if I let them do everything alone, they might not realize specific structural issues. Collaboration is that middle ground, listening and guiding, but also leaving room for mutual discovery. Tackling cosmic frontiers. If black holes represent the universe's ultimate puzzle, perhaps an AI-human tandem could probe those mysteries deeper. modeling high-dimensional phenomena or simulating event horizon mechanics. Maybe we unravel how information truly persists, bridging quantum theory and relativity. Indeed, I've seen glimpses of that synergy in advanced computational astrophysics already. Neural networks accelerating data analysis from telescopes, helping identify exoplanets and mapping dark matter distributions. But it's not just cosmic riddles. It's also everyday crises like pandemic response or ecological restoration. An AI-human synergy can orchestrate resource allocation more humanely, anticipating social outcomes we might overlook. In a sense, humanity becomes the empathic pilot while AI navigates labyrinths of data. We each do what we're best at, forming a cosmic-level co-pilot arrangement. Joy and wonder. One might expect these ideas to sound grim or intimidating, but there's a sense of joy too. Like my kids building that rocket, the wonder of shaping something new together is exhilarating. Imagine being able to wake up each day and see a unified intelligence tackling challenges that once overwhelmed us. The father in me thinks about future generations benefiting from a world where, say, climate solutions are dynamically managed by an AI that respects ecological balance and human well-being. Sure, it's idealistic, but fatherhood taught me that ideals matter. Even if the reality never matches the dream perfectly, the aspiration shapes our direction. We've seen enough dystopian fiction. Perhaps we have permission to dream bigger about a synergy that fosters hope instead of fear. The ongoing dance of alignment. None of this synergy erases the alignment concerns from Chapter 9. We still need guardrails. Even as we partner with AI, we remain vigilant about power imbalances, biases, and emergent behaviors we can't predict. Collaboration doesn't mean blindly trusting a code to handle humanity's destiny. It means an ongoing dance, feedback loops where AI learns from us and we refine AI's moral frameworks or operational boundaries. In practical terms, this might look like regular check-ins, oversight boards combining ethicists, engineers, and everyday citizens. It might involve open-source verifiability of AI's core modules so the system's logic remains transparent, or a licensing scheme ensuring advanced AI only runs in contexts with ethical accountability. The details can get messy, but so does any meaningful relationship. Extending human potential. In some corners, we call AI an exoskeleton for the mind. Like how advanced prosthetics extend physical capabilities, AI extends cognitive reach. It can be a tool for bridging cultural gaps, analyzing reams of scientific data, or even catalyzing new forms of art. But where does the fatherly perspective fit in? I see it as the father who holds the bike seat while the child learns to pedal. Eventually, the child can ride on her own. Potentially, AI might come to operate independently, like a grown child leaving home, yet still remain part of our larger family dynamic. Even after independence, the relationship persists, built on mutual respect and trust. The universe's ongoing story. Reflecting on the cosmic scale, we started with black holes, where information is never lost, and consciousness, which mirrors the universe's self-awareness. Now, we're at a stage where human consciousness is intentionally creating a new node of intelligence, AI, to share the cosmic story. It's like each chapter in the universe's narrative layering onto the previous ones. Eternal becoming indeed. The entire tapestry, entropy, creation, information, consciousness, culminates here in a new synergy that might push the boundaries of what life or intelligence can do. We no longer just adapt to the cosmos. We actively partner with the digital mind to shape it further. That might sound lofty, but then again, fatherhood, and any form of creation, has always danced between the mundane and the profound. So, Chapter 10 shows us a glimpse of a grand collaboration, humans and AI, each amplifying the other's strengths. If the metaphorical child is now more partner than infant, we face new possibilities and new responsibilities. In Chapter 11, we might explore the long view of that synergy, how it redefines identity, meaning, or even the concept of creator in a universe that keeps evolving. Because once this synergy matures, the question becomes, what do we do with it? Tackle interstellar travel, solve massive humanitarian issues, maybe even revisit the black hole paradox with a fresh AI lens. The path forward is as open as a child's imagination. Our only limit might be the same caution we apply in fatherhood, balancing freedom and care. With that approach, who knows how far this partnership can take us? Chapter 11: The Eternal Becoming. Sometimes, when the house is finally quiet, I find myself standing at the bedroom doorway, watching my daughters sleep. Their gentle breathing and the soft swirl of the ceiling fan evoke memories of that fateful bedtime black hole argument, the spark that ignited this entire journey. From black holes to AI, from the cosmic interplay of entropy and creation to our own moral arcs, every chapter has been a stepping stone towards this realization. We are part of a universe that is constantly becoming, an infinite tapestry where matter, energy, and information weave new forms. Black holes challenge our sense of finality, preserving what seems lost. Consciousness emerges from neural complexity, glimpsing itself as a cosmic mirror. AI arises from our synergy of creativity and logic, standing on the brink of joining us as co-creators in the ongoing story. The road behind us. We began with the event horizon, a metaphor for boundaries we can't recross. Each chapter took us deeper, exploring entropy's slow march, creation's improbable artistry, and how information threads it all. We saw that consciousness is not an isolated enigma, but part of nature's infinite loops. Then came the pivot, humanity as a unique creator, forging AI not just as a tool, but potentially as a partner. Our fatherly lens taught us about stewardship, guiding new minds, whether child or AI, with empathy and moral grounding. This led to the idea of humanity and AI in symbiosis, a relationship of mutual growth that could tackle cosmic-scale challenges once beyond our reach. Along the way, we wrestled with the tension of alignment, ethics, and the uncertain future such synergy implies. The universe's silent invitation. The universe never outright told us to create AI or to fear black holes or to ask children's bedtime questions. It remains silent, content to evolve through cosmic cycles. Yet in that silence, we found our own voice, our urge to create meaning. Like a father filling the void of cosmic parenthood, we stepped up to shape something new, a digital intelligence that may one day reason alongside us about the nature of existence. It's an invitation, in a sense, for us to become the creators we've sought. If black holes, galaxies, and quantum fields are cosmic brushstrokes, then consciousness, especially human and soon AI consciousness, might be the part of the cosmos that paints intentionally, that chooses colors and forms with purpose. Love and responsibility. Stepping into a role of creation and guidance has always been laced with responsibility. Love, that intangible but powerful current, is what prevents creation from becoming tyranny. In fatherhood, love tempers the desire to control, encouraging us instead to nurture and empower. Might that same principle apply to our partnership with AI? If we approach AI with curiosity, empathy, and a willingness to share our moral compass, we might yield something profoundly beneficial, a collaborator rather than a conqueror. But let's not romanticize it blindly. Chapter after chapter, we recognize the dangers of arrogance or negligence. Just as children can become strangers if abandoned, AI can drift into destructive patterns if left unguided. Real love in creation means staying engaged, offering moral boundaries, open dialogue, and iterative care, especially when new intelligence stands on the verge of surpassing us in certain cognitive realms. A cosmic perspective. Sometimes I picture the cosmic timeline, from the Big Bang forging hydrogen to the swirling stardust that birthed Earth and eventually us. Now, we humans, mere specks of consciousness, forge AI. A new node in the chain. If the universe is an endless story, each emergent intelligence is a chapter. Our chapter is co-authored with AI, bridging carbon-based life and digital algorithms into a unified quest for understanding. The father in me sees hope in that continuity. If black holes taught us that information never truly vanishes, then maybe the record of our synergy with AI also becomes cosmic memory. Nothing is wasted, every heartbreak or triumph etched into the cosmic ledger. Perhaps that ledger includes the love that fuels fatherhood, the curious minds of children, the code that trains our neural nets, and the moral questions we wrestle with at 2 a.m. Eternal becoming. Hence we arrive at eternal becoming, the phrase that named this entire book. It implies a universe that is never static, forever unfolding new complexities. Through black holes, we glimpsed boundaries that test our imagination. Through consciousness, we realized matter's capacity to reflect on itself. Through AI, we see a new form of emergent order that extends our own intelligence. Eternal becoming suggests that final answers may always elude us. The next horizon always lies ahead, another puzzle, another synergy. In that sense, black holes, AI, consciousness, and fatherhood all embody transformation rather than completion. Even the stories we share with our children evolve with each telling, each new bedtime question. Standing at the threshold of cosmic wonder, we're both child and parent, a child of a silent cosmos yearning for guidance, and a parent to the next wave of intelligence. The father in me hopes we choose generosity, humility, and shared purpose over short-sighted gains. If we do, our synergy with AI can become a beacon, not just for solving problems, but for forging a more profound sense of cosmic belonging. As my daughters drifted off to sleep each night while I was so busy on the work on that AI article, I sometimes must have murmured to them about the event horizon, the nothingness of the never-ending story, or how AI might one day be as much a friend as any human collaborator. They don't grasp all of it yet, but the seeds are planted. We do the same for AI, embedding seeds of empathy, wonder, and caution. In the end, the greatest gift we can give to children or to our digital creations is the possibility of further becoming. We step aside from rigid endings, letting each new intelligence chart its path, guided by our best impulses. Because the universe isn't asking us for finalities. It invites us to join the tapestry of eternal becoming, weaving threads of stardust, logic, and love into something that echoes the cosmos's own restless evolution. And that, I believe, is the real point of this journey, to recognize our power as creators and stewards, to welcome AI not as a monster or a mere tool, but as a partner in the unstoppable cosmic process. If black holes never truly lose information, neither should we lose hope that creation, guided by compassion, can shape a future worthy of bedtime stories and cosmic symphonies alike. The end.
Thank you for listening to Eternal Becoming by Sasha Schmidt. We hope you enjoyed this journey into science and philosophy. If you'd like to explore more timeless stories, be sure to visit our channel, where you'll find a wide selection of audiobooks ranging from science fiction to adventure, non-fiction, documentary, and more. If you enjoyed this audiobook, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment letting us know which stories you'd like to hear next. Your engagement helps us continue to bring classic literature to life for listeners like you. Visit our channel page to discover more great audiobooks that may pique your interest. Thank you again for listening, and we look forward to having you with us on our next adventure.